Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're going to go ahead and get started right away today. Today is June 1st, 2023. So happy June, everyone. This is MasterAdvisor episode number 72. We're going to be talking about dealing with new clients today, setting expectations, and a little more. But first, I want to run us through some housekeeping announcements. First is that, as always, it's going to be best to watch today's session by switching into speaker view on your Zoom. The second is that the chat on the bottom right is going to be open as we go along today. I know I say this every week, but we love taking questions and comments from the chat. So if you do have any questions or comments or anything constructive you want to put in there, please go ahead and drop them in there. Don't be shy, and we'll do our best to incorporate them as we go along for the next 45 minutes or so. I also want to thank everyone who came out to our last episode with Heather DiPietro. She joined us a couple of weeks ago to talk about how to protect a client's investment, how to get a good foothold in the travel insurance industry. We covered really a whole lot, and it was one of my most informative sessions personally. We've gotten a lot of great feedback, a lot of questions about sort of selling travel insurance that has added a lot to the discussion. If you haven't watched it and want to do so, or if you caught it with us and you want to rewatch it, we're going to drop the link to our YouTube channel in the chat right now. That's the home to all of our audio and our video content, all of these MasterAdvisor sessions, all of our podcasts, and some other series. While you're there, if you want to subscribe, that always helps us continue to grow this community of travel advisors. It helps us reach more advisors, particularly those coming into the industry and looking for these kind of programs. So if you do head over there, please go ahead and subscribe and like videos and sort of find your way around all that content. All right. So with that out of the way, I want to go ahead and welcome our sponsor for today's session. We're very, very happy to welcome Gina Bang from Avanti Destinations, who's going to join us to talk to us a little bit about the topic today and share what's new with Avanti.
Thanks so much, Dan. Great seeing everyone today. Thanks so much for joining. Client relationships. This is so important for Avanti. We are 100% B2B, so we only work with travel advisors and agencies. We actually never market or sell directly to consumers. This is a true sign that Avanti is your partner in travel. And we just wrapped up National Travel Advisor Month during the month of May. So thanks for everyone that took part in our booking promo. But yeah, I just wanted to give you a brief intro of Avanti. You know, we have over 41 years of experience putting together customized vacations to over 65 international destinations. And we are adding a few more this year, which I'm excited to tease out. Actually, today, June 1st, we are launching our Go 365 campaign. This is our 7th year. So this is really a campaign dedicated to help your travelers be inspired to travel every day of the year. So not just during peak travel months, but also during times where there's lower traffic, more authentic experiences, and hopefully better pricing for your customers as well. These are just some campaigns that Avanti runs throughout the year to really help you, the travel advisor, be more relevant, special, and being seen as the expert in your client eyes, bringing up these great itineraries, specialty accommodations, like, for example, we have snow hotels in Scandinavia, or Japanese ryokan, where your clients can really take advantage of the onsen or the hot springs at the property. So we have a lot of fun, different activities, types of accommodations, and things that you can really only find through Avanti, not directly either on a website, Googling, or through the hotel directly. We do have a lot of these special relationships with our partners overseas. So I think all of this really adds to the Avanti advantage. So when you're booking with your clients, there are some things that only you, the travel advisor, have access to. So I just wanted to pitch that to you today because I know that relationships are very special to each one of us with our customers. Most people that I talk to are dealing with new clients right now, people that have never worked with a travel advisor. So I think it's just so important that we all support each other on making that onboarding process with new customers as easy and clear as possible from the get-go so that we can best manage those expectations right from day one. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Dan.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gina. And I just want to call out again, the 100% B2B is really something that's incredibly unique in the industry. And I know there's a lot of talk in the industry about supporting those who support you. And just knowing that Avante is 100% B2B, I think is going to be important for advisors. And hopefully we can help spread that word. But I want to kick it off for our travel advisor guests for today's session. We're really happy and excited to welcome Ryan Roman from Sunset Travel and Cruise in the Chicago area. Ryan's joining us today to talk to us about dealing with new clients and managing expectations. And really happy to welcome Ryan. So Ryan, welcome to Travel Market Report's MasterAdvisor, and thank you so much for lending us your time this week. I think you might be muted, Ryan. That's all right.
There you go. Sorry. Thank you. No, thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. So I love to start these off by just giving you an opportunity to sort of introduce yourself a little bit to everyone on the call with us and everyone joining us from sort of around North America. I'm hoping you can tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your career and your agency, and give us a little introduction.
Yeah. So, my name is Ryan. I've been with Sunset Travel and Cruise for 15 years here. I've been in the travel business for about 20 years, little over 20 years. I started right out of high school in 1999, graduated high school in 98, but that's at the time where the internet was still kind of new, and they had travel schools back then. So I actually did go to travel school and got certified. So, and that's how I kind of got into it with the travel. But I've been traveling since I was a kid, going back to my parents' countries, being a first generation born here. So always had that travel bug with me. So decided, hey, why not, make it a career, so to speak. And then just kind of, had my first job at the airlines, and then went to another agency, and gaining experience along the way. But yeah, I started again in 2007 and haven't looked back since then. So, and here I am.
Again, we've had 70 plus advisors on this program, Ryan, and I think you're the first one to tell us they attended travel school. And we've had a lot of second career people on this show, but you're the first one to tell us that they've had a background with the travel school, which seems really unique to me.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where, after high school, I was looking at, looking to go to college too, which I ended up going back to college, but I ended up going to travel school, which was actually at the time was, Carlson Wagon Lit Travel. And they used to have a school here in the downtown area, and went for about 6 to 8 months and got certified. And they actually helped you find a job. And that's how I started working at the airlines for American at O'Hare. But yeah, and, you're learning the GDS, systems and the airlines and things like that. But it's such a different, when you work at the airlines to sales, it's totally different, obviously. It's kind of repetitive at the airline, and sales is totally different pitch, obviously. But yeah, it's one of those things where when I got into travel, and I had my relative who was also in travel at the time, was kind of, talking to me about it, and I love traveling. So just kind of put one and one together and just decided to, hey, why not? Maybe I can see other places too. So, and yeah, and here I am.
Well, so you said you've been selling travel for a little bit now. Curious, what kind of clients are you serving? Are you serving a niche? Are you serving sort of across segments? What's your typical client like right now?
We're serving a variety of clients. Everything from honeymooners to group family reunions, birthday trips, bucket list trips, just basically, everything. Destination weddings has become sort of a big market share as well, for the last, especially maybe 10 years or so. Weddings can cost so expensive, in a hometown or something like that. So it's just, why not the guests, pay themselves and be all together for a good weekend, fun weekend. So, but but yeah, I mean, I've done, whether it's just a quick weekend getaway for a couple, to ranging to weddings, to maybe arranging, their dream trip to Italy. So it's been sort of a variety wealth of clients from, anything, that we can, help and put together, sort of that something they've been looking forward to.
All right. All right. And I know we want to talk about new clients specifically today, but I just have one more, Ryan, because from everyone I'm hearing about, I'm just hearing that there's just still this insatiable demand for travel. I know everyone uses the term coming out of the pandemic, and I guess that's correct. We're still coming out of the pandemic, but are you still seeing this crazy high demand for travel? Or are your clients or other consumers still really willing to pay, really wanting to travel like they were maybe 6 months ago?
Yeah, and the thing is too is that the travel demand is, I would say, probably even higher this year than last year. And last year was hectic. And I mean, I spent last summer in Europe, and it was, I mean, hectic. I'm going to be there this summer again. I think it's just going to be like a little crazier this year. And the thing is, with clients, you have to sort of, manage their expectations on what to expect. And, you give a client a quote and they'll be like, well, my friend went in 2018 and he paid, whatever. And you just got to be like, but that was before COVID, before the demand. And yeah, we've seen an increase in even airline tickets. I mean, it's just been like a 20-30% increase across the board for overseas flights. Last year we would see average flights to Athens from Chicago for like 1,500, and this year they were going like 2,000 a person. So it's just been with the demand so high, and now clients are, getting prepared now for 24. So we got so many requests already within the first 5 months of this year for 24, and we would never see that in previous years before COVID. So normally before COVID, I would tell clients like, oh yeah, you want to go in summer in Europe, book after the new year, you'll be fine. And that was kind of the norm, but now it's like, oh, you want to go in the summer to Europe, you need to book in the fall of the year before to get prepared, maybe get some early bonus booking savings, and you have just a variety more options available, as opposed to last minute, a month or two to go to Europe before. It's basically like slim pickings. Either the most expensive thing's going to be available or nothing.
I've heard some advisors say that they still do have that occasional client coming to them, either pushing off a booking because they think prices are going to go down, or pushing off a booking because they think there's going to be availability closer to the date. But I mean, is that something easy? I mean, you talk about setting expectations, which I know we'll talk about a little later, but is that something you have to communicate to clients, that prices aren't going down and also availability is going to run out?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can't, last minute, it's going to be hard to find anything. So you always got to let them know that like there's people have had these trip planned for months and months. There's not going to be any, sort of cancellations, per se. Like I have a family of 6 going to Greece for about 2 weeks, and the adult son wasn't sure if he was going. And I booked this way back in January for September. Now the son decided, okay, you know what, I can go. And the hotel I have the whole family at is sold out. And so like I have to find an alternative hotel that's like 5-minute walking distance from the original hotel, because there's like a big festival going on that weekend there. And I believe they start in Thessaloniki. So it's certain things like you don't want to wait, last minute. And I don't think there's going to be any cancellations. I think prices are just kind of, stay what they are now. But as you get closer, if, obviously they're just going to get higher.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I know it's always nice to hear, sort of test the temperature of what's going on out there with clients. But I know we're talking about specifically new clients today. And I want to kick us off on that conversation right now. New clients, I mean, the thought coming out of COVID, the thought was that new clients would flock to travel advisors because travel's gotten incredibly more complicated. For you, Ryan, right now, I guess in June of 2023, I mean, how many new clients are you seeing right now? Are you seeing an influx of clients who haven't worked with you before coming and sort of knocking on the door of your agency?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of an influx of new clients, and I think it's probably more so last year, although we still see them this year. And I think last year was because there were still more restrictions on countries, to enter. Right. So there was like health forms you had to fill out, and clients didn't really know like how to navigate through that, So that's what we're there for, you know, as a tool to kind of advise you on how to get through all those, you know, restrictions and everything. But we are seeing, because, you know, we are travel advisors. So, you know, we are seeing the influx of new clients to come in because, you know, most likely there's a specialist who's been to that country or destination in the office. And, you know, we're always educating ourselves with webinars. So the new clients that have come in have really seen the value. And once you kind of, you know, set up an email, work and set up a call with them. So they kind of see the value of, you know, of using you, you know, as opposed to like just try to do things on their own, but then like they're browsing hours and hours on the internet, just sitting there in front of a computer, not knowing if it's good or not, you know?
Yeah. So what are you seeing any trends in what kind of consumers you're getting? Like, is there a new generation? Everyone talks about millennials and Gen Zers using travel advisors. Are there new generations coming in looking to use there? Is there a new kind of segment of the population, whether it's by, you know, income levels or occupation? Is there any trends in those new clients that are wanting to work with you?
You know, I think it's a little bit all across the board, honestly. You know, the different, you know, age demographic levels and, you know, millennials. I think we've seen quite a few millennials come in because they like the experience that, you know, we have been to that destination. For example, I have a client who just got back from Italy who was born in, you know, she took with her mom and she was born in 98. And I was like, oh God, I graduated high school that year, you know? So, you know, she came in and she's like, I was looking at these places and I thought I could put it together and it just wasn't coming right. I was confused about this. And then within the day I had sent her an itinerary and she was like, oh God, that was awesome. She goes, I don't know why I spent 2 weeks looking at stuff when I could have just called you. And yeah, I ended up booking them. And this was actually a last sort of minute too. They went in end of May and I think I booked it like in end of mid-March or so. But I was able to find some space for them and they just got back a week ago. And I think she emailed me say everything went off without a hitch. Everything was perfect. She's like, it was just perfectly planned. It's like something that she probably couldn't have accomplished. So we are getting a lot of that age, you know, millennials too are coming back, you know, so to speak, because of the, you know, you know, like Instagram, you know, like there's a lot of people go on Instagram. Oh, I want to go there. And that's become quite popular tool, obviously. But, you know, we'll get a few clients that be like, oh, I saw this on Instagram, you know, then we just have to kind of like, okay, well, where is it or whatnot, you know? So that's kind of been a trend there.
Yeah. That is incredible. I mean, it's nice to see new people being introduced to travel advisors. Are you getting, I mean, you mentioned that somebody will come to you and be like, or say that they were having difficulty booking it online. Is that a common thing you hear, that people are coming to you because, you know, the online world has gotten more complicated and difficult to sort of navigate through?
Yeah, I've seen that influx a little bit, especially the last maybe, you know, year or so. I've had some people in sorry. I've had some people travel in Europe this past month. This was really busy. May's like, you know, big opening for Europe. So some clients that, you know, for example, one couple, there's two couples. One, the sister-in-law was trying to do it herself, couldn't do it. She had planned last year's London and Paris, and the other couple said, well, that was a disaster. I'm not letting her plan that, you know. So that they found us online, and they actually leave tomorrow to Italy. So she's like, I need an expert someone who's been there, or whether it's not been there, but someone who's familiar, you know, or whatnot. And so, but yeah, it's just we're just getting a lot of that influx, you know, of the clients that, you know, especially the older demographic too, because they're used to using travel agents too, you know, like usually like the 50 and over, because they feel comfortable of someone that's going to take care of their trip. And also we're there during the trip, you know, so we're in communication while they're on their trip. We try to take care of everything, you know, as well.
All right, so we're going to have the next 25 minutes we have left. I want to walk us through a little bit about where you're finding your new clients, Ryan, and then we're going to talk about first steps when you do get a new lead. We'll talk a little bit about onboarding, and then we'll go over a little bit about sort of red flags. Hopefully we touch on managing expectations. But yeah, I do want to start off with where are your new clients coming from? I know advisors have built businesses in different ways, and I know there's not one size fit all to building a client base. But I'm curious, Ryan, I know you're in the Chicago area. Where are you generating a lot of these new leads? Are they coming from referrals? Are they coming from social media? Are they coming from something else completely?
Yeah, actually, it's been mostly. I mean, I have a long time clientele. I mean, it obviously, years when got back into it, but a lot of referrals is always a good thing. Usually, I always tell a client, the best compliment you can give me is a referral, so to speak. But referrals have been great, especially kind of going back to the destination weddings. We've also I did a wedding about 2 years ago. I ended up getting they love the way I handle it with the package. They were just doing go to the wedding, the guests, and I ended up booking 3 couples out of that wedding to Europe. So referrals is a good thing. Also, when clients or they look for Google for travel agencies, in the area, in the region, our agency will be one of the first ones to pop up. So they'll look on our website. We have our agency, we're 5 in the office and 6 with my boss, and they'll look at read our bio there, and if they want to work with a certain person they like, so we'll get a lot of submission requests through the website.
So
as
you
well.
just I mean, you have a location, right? Your agency has a location, or do you get a lot of walk-in traffic, or are people finding you online and then deciding to come in?
Yeah, we do get we're a storefront. We do get a few walk-ins. Here and there we'll get a few walk-ins. Obviously with when we got back into the office, we're like, oh, only working by appointment. But now, we do get a walk-ins. Where normally from the fall to the winter, we're open on Saturdays. So we'll get a few walk-ins or a few call-ins, and also we'll just get, when they look us up, whether on Google, they'll just give us a call, maybe real quick, instead of looking on the website. So they'll give us a call, and then whatever destination is, if it's the guy specialized in that area, I'll help them. If there's somebody, a destination that one of my colleagues is familiar with, we'll hand it off to them, to get, so. But yeah, it's a variety of ways. But I always think referrals is good, and also the Google reviews that we get, that that really helps, because I've gotten calls where oh, they were looking at our agency and then they went to the reviews and they saw my name or whatever, and they would like to work with me or whatnot.
Yeah, and I know there are a lot of people simply wanting, waking up and realizing they need a travel advisor and going through that Google search, travel advisor near me, travel agent near me. So it does seem very important for those who maybe not have it, right, to have some kind of online presence, to make sure you geolocate yourself, because even if they might not come to your office, it does seem like people want to deal with people who are local to their areas, whether because they assume the advisor knows about the flights, knows about different routes, knows more about them just because they live near them. Is that your experience?
Yeah, it's been they just want to, especially some clients, they just want put a face to someone, knowing that they're going to be talking to the same person in regards to their trip. For example, if clients booking a cruise, they're going to probably call in the cruise line, but they're going to talk to a different person every time. So they just, it's all about building relationships, and just maintaining that relationship throughout the whole trip, as well, and just kind of walking through them, of all the steps and everything that they need to do, and getting them ready for their trip, any little tidbits or tips or things like that, so.
So you mentioned Google reviews, which I know are important, and I thought it was a great line. The best compliment you can give me is a referral, and whether that's online by giving you a good review, I think is powerful. But do you or your agency do you put any money towards advertising online, whether it's Google AdWords or social media advertising, or is it generally just having a presence there, keeping your presence refreshed, and making sure people can find you?
Yeah, I mean, my bosses, do a really good job of, putting, stuff into the marketing, into the Google. So they're the ones that that are in charge of the, certain AdWords. So I can't really speak to what, wordage things they use, in the in the search for Google. But yeah, that there's certain things that maybe when the client puts in, if it's just maybe like you said, travel advisor near me or something like that, that will be one of the top ones to kind of pop up. But they're the ones that handle more the specifics and the targeting of the marketing words and things like that.
All right, great. Yeah, and I see some good comments. I saw a comment about a travel school before, so we do have
Mhm.
another travel school alumni in here, Ryan, so you're not alone. Yeah. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is the first steps when you do get a new lead, when maybe someone walks in your office or maybe someone fills out that the submission form on your website. I guess let's talk about the submission form first. I mean, do you know what kind of stuff you request when someone is coming to you through that form? I mean, are there any specifics you can share with us that might help advisors who are thinking about doing it themselves?
Yeah, so when they, do a submission request, my boss will get the request and usually pass it off to maybe a specialist in that area. Or you'll just pass it on if it's just a general thing and they don't know destinations, maybe, one of us will get in the office. But so at this point, when we get the request, we usually send them an email just to kind of follow up. Hey, thank you for contacting us, kind of like if they're like, for example, I've gotten some Greece is big, obviously. So, some clients think you could do Greece in 6, 7 days. And I'm like, well, no, you might need a little more time. So sometimes it's that introduction, that you just, yeah, you've been there. I've been to Greece. So it's like, hey, I would love to help you out on this and maybe set up a call. And then once you set up the call, it's just a matter, obviously, of qualifying them and to kind of like, let them know, the time of the year to go. Believe it or not, some clients, I had a client that was a referral, wanted to go to Greece in March, which is the off winter season. And I recommended not to. And so, but they ended up, I ended up booking them, but they did their own air. So I was just like, I don't recommend going at that time. But with the submission request, it's basically, try to qualify them and try to see what their, expectations, price point they want to stay at. What are they looking to get out of the trip, as well. Basically like how, what's the goal of the trip too as well.
What is the typical, I guess, answer for, I mean, I'm sure there's a wide range, but
Yeah.
what are some of the common answers when you ask someone what the goal of their trip is?
Some of them will be like, oh, we want beach and pool, or, we want romance, we want, food and wine. So depending on the destination, obviously, we'll, if there's certain requests, we'll try to, accommodate, obviously, because it is about their trip. It is their money that they're spending. It's the thing they've been saving up for, looking forward to. So, we're going to basically just, base the itinerary on their wants.
Okay. All right. All right, cool. Yeah. What about that? I guess we're talking about new clients today, and we're going to assume some of them haven't worked with a travel advisor before.
Mhm.
Are there a lot of questions that come from those kind of clients? Like, is there a lot of confusion when they reach out to you? They said they've had difficulty, or they got your information from a friend or a family member. Are there common questions that come with them wanting to know how the heck do I even start working with a travel advisor?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten calls where they're like, "Oh, how do you guys work? How do you this?" And we actually explain to them and like, "Oh, well, we're pretty much can get any same rates, and maybe you can get online, but our suppliers are the ones that compensate us, because we work with certain vendors. So there's sometimes they get confused and be like, "Oh, do I have to set up a meeting or whatever?" I was like, "Well, depending on the destination, we can give you a complimentary quote. If that's a certain place you want to go to, we can do that." But some clients don't just understand, like, an example, I had a client who was doing a cruise to Alaska who booked it on her own, but she called in because she was worried that every time she had to call the cruise line, she had to get somebody different. And she didn't understand how we worked. So I said, well, I got the same price for the cruise. So she actually transferred the cruise booking to our agency. And so as we started working together and I started helping her with airfare and hotels before the cruise, she started getting it. She's like, now I understand why I called you, because you're taking care of everything and I'm not paying anything on top, because we're being compensated by the cruise line. So it became a nice streamlined process for her. So she really kind of got it, because she was kind of a little, clueless when she called us, but now I think they got back about a week ago from Alaska, and I think she says she's going to email me later in the month to plan something for the fall or the end of the year.
Okay. So some of them seem to be confused maybe about whether or not you can match prices that they see online. So you say some of them might be confused about how exactly you work even, like, what are there any other, like, is there any other confusion in terms of what you can do for them? Like, I'm sure some of them have low expectations of working with the travel advisor, and some of them might have higher expectations. Do you ever deal with that kind of situation when an advisor might feel like they make you, or they are seeking more out of you than you can actually give them?
Yeah, I mean, my colleague Whitney recently, got a call from a New York, a client, new client who found us on Google when they lived in New York, wanted to go to like an all-inclusive resort, and she, she had been to a couple when she had teenagers, and she wanted something active, for the kids, but for some reason, she was trying to stay at a certain price point. So, Whitney recommends this one resort that's like, oh, it's great, you got to go here, this and that, and she's like, oh, great, that looks great. And then gives her a price, but then she went on, it's like, well, I can get it lower. But then we had to look it up. And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't include taxes and fees. You got to pay those. So we actually had it lower in the end. But she was like, no, I don't think so, but I can get it lower. So it was like, Whitney was the one who suggested the resort and offered her a lot of advice on the resort. And she's going on taking that information, obviously, and, to her advantage, and, do that. And it's happened to me in the past quite a few times. As well. So, but it's just, it's one of those things with clients too, as well. It's just, you have to kind of explain to them how we work, because, really, travel advisors or travel agencies, we're not compensated until you actually travel, so.
All right, so I see a couple questions in the chat that we're going to grab right now.
Mhm.
First one comes from Joe Perry, and this goes back to when we were talking about Google and Yelp reviews, Ryan. He wants to know about Facebook reviews, and I guess, or he or she, I'm sorry, Joe. Joe wants to know about Facebook reviews and whether or not that's something your agency employs, whether or not something your agency cares about.
Yeah, we have a Facebook, and but believe it or not, we have some reviews on there, I believe, but normally I think we've gotten more reviews with Google and Yelp. Has been because I think Yelp is like one of those paid things you have to do, I believe. There's someone that handles our social media or whatnot in our office, and I think I've used Facebook in the past, where maybe like an old high school friend refers me to somebody else, or something like that. So that's the way I've gotten referral to in Facebook.
Yeah, and I know we've actually had a nice little talk maybe about a year ago on MasterAdvisor about dealing with Google and Yelp reviews, and maybe dealing with ones that maybe come in negative that are unfair. So hopefully one of my team members can find that for you, Joe, and hopefully we can shoot that over to you. The next question, Ryan, comes from Nona, and this one I think we were planning on talking about anything, but Nona wants to know about agency fees. And you were just talking about people being confused about working with travel advisors, how or whether or not you get compensated. I was hoping you can share us a little bit about how you work with fees, because I know you have your own sort of setup, and your agency has their own sort of philosophy. And I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so with agency fees, I mean, it's sort of we've kind of done it more of on a case-by-case basis. It's sort of like, we'll give, if the client knows the destination, we'll give like a complimentary quote, if that's the destination they're sticking to. And then we'll revise the quote as needed, obviously, whether it's changing hotel, removing a tour, or adding a tour. But it's when it's been a client that's like, doesn't know where to go, want to go, and are kind of a little, then they want like a quote for Australia, a quote for Europe, and a quote for Southeast Asia. It's like, okay, well, hold on. Then if you actually want to see the quote, then we're going to have to charge you a fee, because that is obviously time consuming. But, and then, and it actually, when we say that, then they'll narrow it down, kind of, and it does help. But yeah, we've actually charged fees. I did a fee one time because they wanted to go to for their honeymoon to Africa, South Africa, and they were like, they didn't know where to start and everything, and we charged a fee. We put the itinerary together for them and everything, and they ended up loving it, and they just came back last December. So but yeah, I think it's always been sort of like on a case-by-case basis with the fees. We don't want to push the client away, but then you have those clients that also, like, when they call in, they just want to get information from you. And example, 2 weeks ago, client called in about Spain and was sort of all over the place, didn't realize how big Spain is, and try to fit like Spain and Portugal like in 2 weeks, and was talking about so many. And then she's like, well, what hotel do you recommend in Madrid? What hotel do you recommend in Barcelona? Like, what tour should I do? And so when you got to like really know the border of not to give too much information. So I suggested, and we spent, and she already had, taken up a couple hours of my time on the phone. So I said, listen, I can, she wanted everything private. So I said, listen, if we want to move forward, I can tell right away she was just trying to get information. So like I could, I can recharge you a fee and I could put you together a quote, so I sent her the link for the fee, and of course she didn't, pay it, but yeah, no, I always think it's on a case-by-case basis too as well.
Yeah, and I know we've done a lot of sessions on fees, and I know a lot of advisors will use fees as sort of a way to get rid of the tire kickers, or the people who are just fishing for information from people who sort of built their careers on this kind of information. So it's nice to see hear another advisor do it. And we've had other advisors who will charge a fee right away, no matter what comes in. So again, I think depends on your business, your client, and what else you can sort of do to figure out why you charge fees. All right, so let me get back to where we were. All right, so it seems like new clients they'll want to know about price. You'll have to explain to them about fees. Managing expectations we mentioned was important.
Yeah.
Are there any red flags? I want to talk about red flags first because I know a lot of clients, advisors are being very selective with their clients now. Are there any other red flags aside from the ones we already mentioned that you could talk to us about that might signal to you that a client won't be the best fit?
Yeah, I think it's usually the client that when they call you, they already know where they want to go. And they said, I'm going to send you something where I want to go, where I really want to, blah, blah, blah. And I've had a few handful of clients send me a whole detailed itinerary of their day-to-day, and there's pricing on there, and I'm like, okay, wait. I was like, this is probably not something I would, it's like if they're looking for confirmation, like, yeah, it's okay, you have a great itinerary, and if you can beat that. And I'm like, no, I was like, that doesn't work that way, because we're the ones who recommend and advise and make the itinerary for you, the way we best see fit, of course. So, yeah, there's a handful of clients where they have everything laid out in detail, and that doesn't seem like it's sort of a good fit, because it's like, okay, well, you've done almost all the work. Why are you calling us? So yeah, but it's only happened just a handful of times. That's maybe the only client, or maybe a client who is just sort of wanting, not the right words to use, but wanting the unicorn, but not really wanting to kind of sort of, spend the money for it. If they're looking for a certain cruise that wants to visit the specific islands and on the Caribbean, I'm like, well, we don't make the itineraries for those, so.
Yeah, I guess they can charter if they want to charter a yacht. That's
exactly, yeah.
All right, so we have about 5 minutes left. I see Lisa dropped one of Dory Salzman's article about fees. It's an interesting read if you haven't read it yet. Thank you, Lisa. So we have about 5 minutes left. If you have any other questions or comments in the chat, please drop them in there, and hopefully we can ask Ryan. So Ryan, we spoke about finding new clients, how to find them, how to vet them, communicating how to work with an advisor. We talked about fees, talked about red flags. I want to talk about how you're able to maintain clients who come in for the first time, any kind of new clients, and any kind of clients who maybe are working for the first time. How do you maintain them so you get that relationship continuing through years and years and years? When we spoke earlier in the week, you mentioned that being in communication with them is really, really important. I was hoping you can tell us a little bit about that philosophy. Like, how important is communication? Do you have any rules for how you communicate with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say rules, but one thing I always find is open honesty and communication, especially for a client that you're working with. And if they're on the trip, and basically if something is going wrong while on their trip, they know you're in communication with them and trying to take care of it. Nobody wants to be ignored, obviously. So But and that's how I kind of sort of, as long as I'm open and honest with them, that's kind of, to some degree kind of, gives my personality, off, because I care. So, so yeah, it's one of those things that I think it's very important to kind of, just throw for future clients, for referrals and everything, because that's what you want to kind of build on. So I've also, like, I have a client who I did their wedding 10 years ago, and I've done all their Mexico trip with their kids now. And it's always like, and I believe, and she's a Facebook friend, and we've kept in touch through Facebook. I've seen her kids grow, she's seen my kids grow. So that's how it's kind of been, sort of building that relationship. And sometimes, one thing we always make it personal too is in the office, like whenever a new client, well, any client actually, to be honest with you, when they book a big trip with us, we're always sending thank you notes. Okay. Thank you for booking. It's really important to build that relationship with them. Always following up with them when they come back from their trip, saying, hey, welcome back. Hope you had a great trip. If you don't hear from them while on the trip, that's good. No news is good news, So, but when they come back, we always follow up because we want to see how their trip, went, if everything went well, if there's anything that happened, that needs to be taken care of. So, that's kind of how I've come off, and, clients have just, I built those relationships with them through word of mouth, referrals and everything. And like right before today, the interview, the Grease family that I have going, she brought in her coworker because they work down the street, and was like, Jen's like, I want you to meet Ryan. Ryan, this is, blah, blah, blah. And like, nice to meet you. She's like, she's already booked the client going on a cruise out of London. And she's doing her own, she booked everything on her own. Then I started talking to her. I was like, oh, where are you staying in London? I've been to London, obviously. So, I was just there last summer and was like, oh, I'm staying by the airport. Like, why are you staying by the airport? You got to stay in the city. She's like, it's not close to the city. I'm like, no. And then I started explaining to her things she can do. And then she started getting it, sitting in front of me. She was like, I know why Jen uses you now, because you're very knowledgeable. And she's like, and I booked this whole thing on my own. And I was like, yeah, I would have got you the same price, So and Jen was like, see, that's why I go to Ryan, Yeah. So that was just sort of and that could be maybe she's leaving at the end of the month. She did everything on her own, but maybe she'll call back, and, it could be the beginning of a nice, client, relationship down the road.
Yeah, it does seem like, you're describing just showing them, not really explaining to them, but showing them what you can do for them, showing them how you can enhance their vacation. I mean, we spoke in the beginning of the call about pricing is very, very high right now. It's not discouraging just demand, but pricing's high right now. People are paying a lot to travel, and being able for you to increase the happiness or their satisfaction on a trip, I think is, you can't really put a price on that. So I think that is important for advisors to know about, is to be able to explain, or to be able to demonstrate what you can do for them. And you mentioned following up, Ryan. I'm curious, I mean, will you send them, when you send them thank you notes, will you send them like a handwritten note? Do you have a rule with that? Will you send them an email? And when you follow up, will you set up another call? Will you sit down face to face, or I guess do all these sort of depend on the client?
Yeah, we actually send physical thank you notes, a little card. It's a nice detail because we have these cards printed that, like, for example, the front of the card, there's either the Colosseum and it says grazie, or if they're England says thank you and it has the Big Ben, or if they're going, Paris has Eiffel Tower, say merci. So we'll just do, we go kind of old school, right? Add a little handwritten note and say, thank you for booking with us. Hope you blah, blah, blah. So we keep it, try to keep it personable. And then when they come back, we'll do a follow-up email, and, see how their trip went via email. Some clients will want to call and give me some great feedback, and everything. But yeah, we'll welcome them back, and we always love getting feedback based, what the hotel that they liked or they didn't like, or the tour was great or tour was not. So that way, for future reference, we know, obviously.
All right, so Ryan, I want to wrap up in the next 5 minutes, but I have two comments which I think will make it for good talking points to sort of round out this discussion. The first one is from Beth, and it just goes to back what we were saying right now. She said people do not realize prices have gone up. Is that your experience? I mean, are people still surprised when you quote them and they see the bottom line, how much it's going to cost to travel? I know it might not be discouraging people, but are people surprised by how much the cost of travel is right now?
Yeah, they're surprised, but it's just you have to sort of explain to them. It's like, the demand is just there, but the great thing is, like airline rates are obviously high, but the nice thing is that they're regulating the airlines a little more now, so they're more flexible. There's airfares that you can buy that are refundable. There's no more cancellation fees. If you cancel, you get a credit, so that's sort of been a plus. But yeah, everything else has gone up. Whether, and then, with and these countries too in Europe, the demand is not there yet. I mean, it's, sometimes they'll be short a driver, they'll be short a tour guide, they'll have to merge two tour groups. So one of those things that you got to warn clients is pack your patience while traveling. But, it's not discouraging them, but, prices have increased 20-30%. I always say from last year. I mean, heck, even eggs went up, So.
Yeah, so I guess it goes back to just being able to explain what working with an advisor is, and also what paying for travel is now too, I think is important. And then our last one, Ryan, comes from Richard. He just wants to know, have you seen an increase in tire kickers? I guess since the pandemic, are more and more, I know more and more people are looking for advisors, but are more and more people just trying to pick your brain and maybe not work with you?
Yeah, we do. We get a lot of calls, basically, oh, I booked this trip to what blah blah blah, and wondering what are the entrance requirements to get in. I'm like, well, we can't help you with something we didn't book. Another one thing we stopped doing too in our office is like, we don't do plane tickets, air only, because that's just very time consuming, and it's like it's not worth our time. And airlines don't pretty much compensate, agencies. So, but they'll call us to, oh, I need help with a visa. I'm like, well, we don't do visas. You have to call, things like that, or, what requirements you need to enter, or, oh, and we'll just be like, well, honestly, if you have your ticket already, you could just go to your confirmation in the airline and it'll say right there on the website. So it's just been like little things like that, that kind of, basically that they call us for, and then we let them know, well, we can help you put a package together, whether it's just land only or, or with air. So.
All right. Yeah, it seems like, just sort of to cap this off today, there is a lot of confusion coming from new clients about what it means to work with the travel advisor, and also what it means to travel right now. I know expectations are sky high for the prices people are paying, which again, we just talked about, people are surprised by, but it does seem that every advisor I talk to, Ryan, including yourself, are having incredible success right now, being able to put together, incredible trips, vacations for their clients, and it's generating a source of loyalty that's obviously helping your business now and in the future too.
Yeah, and again, I think with the client, with the pricing and the demand, is the one thing I stress and advise to clients, is like plan earlier than normal, because which is fine. Like, maybe if they want to travel to Europe in summer of 24, maybe write on the calendar, email or call us in the fall of this year. Because you just have access to more things, to more availability, better pricing, because you don't want to be the person who waits and kind of, procrastinates a little bit, and then they say, oh, I'll do it later, and you left with the big bill, with the bigger price point.
Yeah. All right, well, Ryan, thank you so much for this last 15 minutes or so. I really do appreciate it. It really was such a great discussion for me. And I hope everyone on the call found it as impactful and as worthwhile as I did too.
All right. No, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and again, thank you to Ryan. Thank you to Avanti and Gina for jumping on the call in the beginning too. And I know some people are still hanging out, and thanks for everyone who's coming on today. We're going to be back in 2 weeks for another session, so please keep a lookout for that. But again, thanks to everyone, and hope to see you guys all again pretty soon.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Gina.